Welcome to Carver Conversations, a Saburrtooth podcast. I'm your host, Tiff Marchand from Night Carver Designs, and today on the show I have Johnathon Whittaker. Johnathon is an amazing artist. He uses a wide variety of tools to make his masterpieces, and his forms are all very organic, lots of curves and different shapes that I really find appealing. Johnathon has a very fun story. He is originally from Barbados and is currently living in the UK right now. I was super pumped that he had some time to sit down with us and let us learn a little bit about him and what he uses as his inspiration to create his works. I hope you enjoy the show. Make sure you tell friends about it, and if you're going to be doing some shopping, check out our code in all caps EM2CO to save 10% at checkout on your entire order. All right, thank you for listening.
Well, how are you?
I'm doing very good. It's very unusually hot here, so it's quite nice.
Oh, you like the heat?
Well, from where I'm from, it's a nice change.
Yeah. Where are you originally from?
I'm from Barbados,
Oh,
which is a
okay.
very small island in the Caribbean. So it's usually 35 degrees there, and I live in England now, which is usually 16 degrees.
Oh, yeah,
So it's
it's a huge difference. I think you're probably one of the carvers I've been following for the longest.
oh, really? Thank you.
I really do. I feel like you're one of the first ones I saw. You and Cecilia from the shop Wood Designs are
Yeah.
two of the people that I just always loved. You guys both have a lot of, like, I always tell her, like, movement in your art.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, she's fantastic. We've been chatting for feels like a couple years now.
mm-hmm.
Just talking about the different tools and equipment and the different burrs, the Saburrtooth cuts, all the
Mm-hmm.
ways to use them,
Yep.
tools. She's admonished me a couple times for not wearing the proper safety protection. I've
She's
quarreled
not
with her.
afraid to be mouthy.
No, that's great though. I think
That's
we all
why
need
that's
a
why I
little
love her.
reminder.
Yeah. You're like, someone's got to yell at me every once in a while.
Yes, this is true.
That's great. But yeah, you guys both have that beautiful, like, just the curves, the movement. It's awesome. But I think I started maybe following you because it's been so long, I really don't remember. You were a sign carver in the beginning, what I noticed when I was
Yes.
scrolling. Yeah.
Yes, I've been carving now for about 7 years.
Okay.
Um, I was I've spent most of my life, I've either been a scuba instructor or a commercial diver.
Oh, cool.
And then coming up from the commercial diving scene, I actually went back to university and got my degree in civil engineering.
Awesome.
And while I was doing civil engineering, after a project was done, I wanted to give my clients a little bit of a thank you or like a memento.
Yeah.
So I started looking to route signs.
Mm-hmm.
And initially I was using like a template, which I hated.
Yeah.
So then I started watching a YouTube called Make a Wood Sign with Eric and Dave Roughton.
Yeah, yeah, that's how I met you, I swear. Because I'm same thing. I watched them. That's how I learned.
Yeah, I watched them. They probably have 500, 600, 700 videos on there.
Yeah.
I probably watched them all twice
Yeah.
and just dove right into that and got hooked. And almost immediately I was giving signs to clients and people then asking to buy them. And within 6 months of even starting, I was asked to do a show,
Awesome.
and it's just grown from there. And I got a bit tired of just using a router, so I started using gouges and
Mm-hmm.
burrs and to make each thing a little bit better.
Yep.
Then I started getting into more 2D, then 3D, then that stuff it was just taking too long, so I picked up a chainsaw. Never used a chainsaw before. Never before 2 years ago. Never picked up a chainsaw in my life.
And now you love it.
And
I love it.
yeah, and then I first thing was just okay. Rather than start small, my first job was I'm going to carve a 15-foot sculpture just to
Why
try.
not, right?
Yeah. And then it's just, I don't consider myself a chainsaw carver. I could consider myself a wood carver who uses chainsaws because I use
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Right.
Like on this piece, I've used chainsaw, angle grinder, chisels, gouges, burrs, and I'll do anything I'll use anything to get the job done
Mm-hmm.
and to
Exactly.
get those shapes that I want to find.
Yeah, no, exactly. You got to pull out all your tools and just
Yeah,
have fun. Yeah. I agree with
and
that.
it's so much fun to when I started carve. I started figurative carving because I thought, okay, this is what all the big artists do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not. I have no training in art. Um, so what I did is I just read a lot and I studied a lot. Looked at hundreds of pictures, loads of different people carving, and just experimented and failed a lot.
Yeah.
But each time I failed, I tried to keep note of it, which is why I started my YouTube channel. Because as much for other people to see, because I was getting the same question over and over,
Oh, yeah.
but for me to look back on, it's like, oh, this is how I did that. This is how I got that color.
That's perfect.
So,
Yeah, exactly.
well, it was also finding the Saburrtooth bits. Initially was to try to make my sign carving better
Mm-hmm.
and try to do more of a 2D and 3D effect.
Yeah.
That because with a router, it's a very vertical plane,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes you want to do some undercutting or it's some feathering or
Yep.
I started using them actually a lot for sanding inside the letters. Some use
Mm-hmm.
some of the white bits, and yeah, it's I've been using them for. I've gone through probably 50 or more different bits
Yeah.
because unfortunately I'm not that gentle.
I was gonna say somebody's aggressive. That's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, that's a lot of bits to go through.
Yeah,
I
some of
haven't.
them have gone pinging away or they have snapped off or yeah, I've gone through a few. Gone through a few drums.
Yeah, once you find the rotary tool that you love, like it has to fit your hand. I like somebody asks me that all the time, like on the Saburrtooth Instagram. What do you recommend? I'm like, whatever feels good in your hand. Like you have to be comfortable with those tools. Like I have like little
Oh,
tiny hands, you know,
yeah.
but like I like those smaller rotary tools.
And especially like sometimes I'll be like a piece like this, the rough shaping of it with the chainsaw takes me maybe an hour,
Mm,
but then the sanding and detailing of it can take me another 3 days.
mm-hmm.
And I'll start with big angle grinders, big sanding pads. I'll use saber burrs and the saber cup
Mm-hmm.
carving discs. Um, I'm getting down to Dremel, and I use loads of different bits. It's trying to get into every little curve. I
Right.
try to get creative and make my own type of sanding bits, just to try to reach inside, and because I want every single piece to
To be
be
smooth.
perfect and spotless. And
Yeah.
it doesn't matter how whatever your car, it doesn't matter how it looks. I get a lot of people sending me questions or make comments like, "Well, how do I do this? How do I do that?" It's like find something you love, find a shape you love,
Mm-hmm.
carve it as much as you can, and then just start sanding it because a lot of the shaping can be done with sanding.
Yeah.
So even if you're not overly happy with how the original product is, put a polish on it. I guarantee it's going to look 1,000 times better.
Mm-hmm.
And use that as a learning example because this one, I didn't have any of these. I pretty much finished this one yesterday. Didn't like it. So I wanted this more of a concave edge here.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yep.
broke the chainsaw out again this morning and carved the whole thing again, even though I'd already just finished spending 10 hours sanding it.
Yeah, but it wasn't right. I hear you.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. Yeah, you gotta make it. It's gotta. You're making it for you in the end. Like even if it's for somebody else, it's to make you happy. Like I'm proud of what you've just accomplished, and I do love those curves. Like it does look really cool.
It's got to have that flow. It's got to have that symmetry. Um, and one of the things I use a lot with the sabers and the discs is getting these lines straight
Mm,
because the smallest difference of them can really catch your eye.
yeah.
So I'll finish a piece and I'll put it and I'll turn it and I'll just sit and look at it and then I'll get my little charcoal and it's like, no, that's not good. That's not good. Sometimes the whole thing is just gone.
Yeah.
And I make a
Yeah.
much smaller carving.
Yeah. Originally this was going to be 4 feet. Here's your 2 foot sculpture. Enjoy.
Oh, is it toothpick? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. Um, your are these all commissions or do you build inventory and sell them somewhere?
Most of my work goes into galleries now.
Nice.
So I do some commissions, but a lot of the time I post primarily on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the time before I'm finished carving something, somebody's requested to purchase it.
Beautiful.
So, which is good, but it's also kind of annoying because
Yeah.
now I feel pressured to finish it, but my mind's already on the next one, or actually even the next one after that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't draw; these are all freestyle. I don't. I don't really have a plan.
Yep.
What I do, I just start trimming off the wood. I know the kind of shapes I'm looking for. I'm looking for uh, like S shapes, curve shapes,
Mm-hmm.
wavy shapes, but it's all dictated by the wood.
Yeah.
So if I find big knots or big cracks, if I don't have a fixed image in my head, like when I was figurative carving, you had to be okay. An arm's an arm, a leg is a
Mm-hmm.
leg, and if you can't put an arm leg there, you either have to remove it completely or add something to it, which just I found annoying.
Yeah.
So with the abstract ones, it's I can change and adapt it to anything. Doesn't matter how badly damaged a piece of wood is, what I find inside, I can just work around that.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense.
The only
Um,
time I get really stumped is when the cracks get a bit too big.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you can see there are some quite sizable cracks in this piece.
Yeah. There's one right in the center, right?
Yeah,
Two
a big one
up
there.
top. Yep.
But I'm using a product called O3 adhesive,
Okay.
which is it's a CA glue,
Mm-hmm.
which you apply it and then you spray the activator on it, and
Little
it's
accelerator.
instantly it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But
I was just doing that actually moments ago with a piece.
but I find it's one of the few ones that I've actually been able to combat the expansion in wood.
That's
So
good.
it's these ones won't reopen. I might get new ones,
Yeah.
but these ones shouldn't open back up again.
It's character.
Yes. But it's one of the things when, as much as I love using wood, it's also can be quite frustrating too,
Mm-hmm.
because quite a lot of my pieces go into galleries, and depending where they put them in a gallery or somebody buys them, they put them into their house and they'll put it on a radiator or their fireplace or in the sun. I'm like, well, you can't do any of that.
Right. It's wood.
And then they complain. It's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
you sold me this thing and it's cracked. It's like, well, where'd you put it?
Yeah.
But something I do, which has really helped me get into galleries, is I offer them a my lifetime guarantee. If at any time one of my sculptures cracks too much, or if it cracks, or if it breaks
Mm-hmm.
organically, I'll fix it or repair it for no charge. They just have to send it to me,
There you go.
and it's yeah, that works really well.
Yeah. No, exactly. Like I stand by my work. I'll make sure it's
Mhm.
right. But
Yeah,
yeah,
there
you're
are
also like
some.
also keep it off the radiators, please.
Yes. Why I send a letter with them saying this is what you need to do, and I use comparisons for it's like treat it like it's a really delicate fern or an orchid. Anywhere you wouldn't put one of those, don't put a sculpture there. And some people listen, and some people have their own ideas.
Yeah. No. Well, it looks good here.
Yeah.
I bought it for my fireplace. That's where it's going.
Yeah.
So that's
So
great though. You have the card. It's a disclaimer. Also, you say I'll fix it, but please don't do
yeah.
this. So
Well, I think I've only had to ever do that once.
yeah.
Once in maybe 70 odd sculptures in the last year. So it's
Awesome.
yeah, it's not too bad.
Yeah. No.
And it also too people then remember and they get back in contact with me, and so it's a nice little calling card, and I think it's a nice service to do, because if I bought something for a lot of money and it cracked the next day, I
Mm-hmm.
might be a little miffed.
Same.
But it's having it I guess you'd call it a warranty,
Mm-hmm.
gives people a little bit more confidence.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. And it's definitely something scary to think about too. Like I do wonder how all those pieces of art I've made and sent to people, how are they looking still? As you're talking, I'm like, I wonder how they're looking.
Yeah, well, I started out initially. I started doing a lot of owls and whales and dolphins, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, people wanted to put them in their garden. And I was like, okay, well, make sure you don't do that, and they need to be re-oiled annually. I'm pretty sure most people don't do that.
I'm sure they don't.
So it's and it's funny because every piece I sell or give to a gallery, I'm a little heart-wrenched about it because I put so much work into each piece and time and thought
Mm-hmm.
and literally blood sometimes that is kind of want them to go to a good home. I
Yeah.
want people who are going to love them and take care of
Right. You spend some time with these pieces, you know, it's,
them.
yeah, I understand that. I'm like, I really do. And what you were saying too earlier about the pressure, like when somebody wants to buy something that you're currently working on, I
Yeah,
totally get that. It does take away from the experience.
yeah.
Like I was just making this, and then later I was going to try to sell it, you know, like, but right now I'm just trying to enjoy the process of making it. And now I'm like, don't mess it up, you know, like that's coming, that fear.
Well, I think that's kind of our fault too because we're both prolific Instagram posters.
Mm-hmm.
And if I could just like delay it for 2 weeks, and then that would be better.
Yeah.
um, I get excited about my stuff, and or I'm always trying to post a little tip of I figured out a new way to use a tool,
Mm-hmm.
or try this or try that. So I like to share it, and I generally share whatever piece I'm working on at the moment.
Yep.
Despite best intentions, it never works.
Yeah, no, that's so true. I sometimes will what they call juice the content, whereas I'll
Yeah.
take something and I'll stretch it out for a week long. So by the time they see me painting it, it's been painted for a week. That's always really nice when you can do that, you know? Like it does feel better because they're like, oh no, already done.
Yeah.
When you get those comments come in.
Yeah. Now, sometimes I'll start working on maybe 3 or 4 pieces at a time because I'll get a big piece like this, and even though I get loads of timber and I let it dry out in my workspace,
Mm-hmm.
but then once I do a rough cut on it, I need to then let it sit again to readjust to the
Yeah.
environment. Otherwise, I'll just get big cracks. So sometimes I'll be putting videos up or pictures of what, and people are like, "Oh, what happened to that one?" It's like, well, that's waiting. That's
It's
doing it.
resting.
Yes, it's tired.
It needed a break and so did I. No, but no, yeah, there's a whole process with that. Like bowl carving too. I know people suffer with that problem too, with managing the moisture in the wood so it doesn't crack.
Because I wish I would love to have a kiln, but
Mm.
it's hard to put a tree in a kiln.
Mhm.
It's it's there's a couple of guys there who actually use regular just like planed timber, and they
Mhm.
glue it all, they laminate it all together. And I'm tempted, some of the more delicate pieces I do, I'm kind of tempted to look into that again. But
Yeah,
then there's something so fun and exciting about just carving into a tree because you never know what you're going to find. I
right.
found bits of metal. I'm still working on a big one at the moment, which was full of musket balls.
Oh wow.
So, see, somebody a couple of 100 years ago was using it for target practice.
Mm.
So it's I mean, lead doesn't bother the chain, and it leaves serious discolorations in the wood, but that gives its own beauty as well.
In
And it's
history. Yeah.
yeah, but you can't find that from store-bought timber. You can only find that from a log.
Yeah.
I was sponsored by Gorilla Glue to do one of the makers shows, and I carved a breaching humpback whale.
Mm.
And so they wanted something. It's like, well, show how you use glue. It's like, oh, I use it to stick things together. It's glue. Um, so what is? I got a whole big bunch of 2x4s and made a massive block of wood and then carved that, and it actually came out really nicely. But
Yeah.
it was the only way I could show how to use glue. It's like
Yeah, you're like, I do it for some finishing touches. Yeah.
but I did a lot of torsos. I did a lot of female torsos, all from laminated wood.
Okay.
And what I wanted to do to actually show that it was laminated is I would like stain where I was gluing them together, I would stain inside of each piece a
Yep.
black or a blue or a red. So as you're looking at the joints, you can see these very specific lines,
Mm-hmm.
which as they take on the contours of a shape or a body, then give this really beautiful undulating pattern that
Yeah, that's
there's no way
cool.
you could add it normally, and it
Hmm.
came out quite well. Sometimes it doesn't always work because depending what color you use to color the wood or stain the wood,
Yep.
the glue might not like it.
Hmm.
Had a couple, seemed to glue it together well, glued up great, started carving, the whole thing just went, that can
Oh,
be, yeah.
yeah, that would be sad. That would be
Yeah,
very, very sad.
yeah. You spend 10 hours, 12 hours on something and then it just falls to pieces. That's not
Yeah.
fun.
No. Um, I'm curious about these like well, they were like team sports signs that you're making. They got so chunky. I love the look of them. Now I'm not gonna be able to find them, of
Yeah,
course.
the
But
NHS plaques. Well,
yes.
do you know what the NHS is?
No.
The NHS is here in the UK, we have a national health system,
Okay.
and NHS stands for National Health Service. So
Okay.
that's all of our hospitals, all of our ambulances, they're all government funded.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter what happens to you here, you can cut your finger, need an X-ray, need an ambulance, need a heart transplant. It's free.
Like
So
Canada. Okay.
yeah, but they during the pandemic they were inundated with they were overworked and they were really suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So uh, I think it was a Thursday nights we were doing a clap for carers, a clap for our hospitals and for all the people doing the work. And my son suggested that I carve something for our local hospital. Um, and alongside that, I also had one of my students who was very old. She'd just gone into the hospital and she was a very big fan of the NHS. So I said, okay, I'm going to carve a little tiny NHS plaque.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to make her a video because when she got out of the hospital, she's in lockdown. Something that she could do at home.
Yeah.
Well, she doesn't have to be there for me to show. Um, so I did a little one. She loved it. Then it's one of my friends who works at the hospital said, "Can I do a bigger one for the hospital?" So okay, okay. So I did one that's maybe 2.5 feet long, maybe 10 inches tall. Put that onto Facebook, and it all went a little bit crazy.
So you made quite a
Uh,
few.
well, in the first week that I put them up, I think I got 10,000 messages. It got
Wow.
shared and liked like 500,000 times.
Wow.
And
That's
you know
crazy.
when you first carve something or you want to hopefully one of your first creations and you want to sell it and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, what happens if I get too many requests? It
Yes.
never happens,
It
but
never
it is a
does.
bit of a
Yes.
work.
Yeah.
So the first sign that I did, well, first it was probably the 5,000th sign I'd carved. I put it up there as a giveaway and I got 10,000 requests in a week. Um, but fortunately, a lot of those were from the same places.
Okay.
So I said, okay, well, I'm going to carve 10 of these plaques and give them to my local hospitals. So did that, got those 10 done, and then it just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Wow.
So a few tool companies, they sponsored me with tools to continue making. Talked to a few local timber merchants. They sent me probably a ton of wood, and I started carving, and I carved for 18 months.
Wow. Okay.
I made in the end, by the time I finished, I'd carved and donated to 736 hospitals, ambulance services, mental health charities, care homes, all over the United Kingdom. By the time I finished, I was so tired of carving signs.
Oh, I'm sure. I was gonna say because, all right, so that makes a lot of sense because I was scrolling through and those were kind of like the last signs I've seen you make, and then ever since then, it's been very organic, very natural looking stuff. So, okay, this makes a lot of sense. You were totally burned out. Those things were gorgeous though, so I can see why it blew up. The amount of depth that you got, the wood that you chose to make them on, like everything just worked really well on them.
Was I found with the if I can, especially if I'm just doing a few letters, I try to
Mm-hmm.
do at least whatever the depth of the wood is. I try to carve at least 50% of the depth.
Yep.
So if I'm using quite like 2 inch thick material, that's 2 inch, 1 inch high letters,
Mm-hmm.
and then just practicing it with and playing with it and I'm very probably annoyingly picky about how they are finished. So I would maybe start them with a router,
Mm-hmm.
but most of the time I do them with chisels
Yep. I saw
because
you had chisels out.
yeah, I find I can actually do them faster now with chisels than I can with a router, and they're cleaner.
Oh.
If I want to get a really nice smooth finish,
Yeah.
yeah, it's the chisel's definitely the way to go.
Well, I was curious because it did have a lot of depth, so I was wondering. Like, I figured it was not routers; it had to be hand tools because
Yeah,
you're not gonna get that look from a router.
but even now I still get people sending me pictures, or I'll see them on the news where there's some little video clip of something happening in a hospital or an emergency room or somebody's visited a hospital, and they'll either send me a picture of one of their plaques that they've carved and donated to that hospital, or the one of the ones I've did,
Hmm.
which is just yeah, it makes me yeah, feels good.
Yeah, yeah, it has to. Well, that's crazy. And then after that, you found like this whole new way of making art. Like
I just jumped
crazy.
full time into sculpture after that. It
Yeah.
was always kind of been what I wanted to do. I didn't think I had the ability,
Mm-hmm.
but I was watching people like which Cami from Cameron's garage.
Mm-hmm.
There's another sculptor, Salem Barker. The guys who really I loved what they were doing. I
Yeah.
just thought it was beautiful, and it's like, well, I want to try that. Although Cami, he does a lot of working with a lathe, and he does segments and he glues them all together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's some of the stuff he does is so ridiculously complicated, and I just am boggled that it's like how many, not even
Yeah.
hours, how many weeks have you put into that
How
particular
much thought had to go into the idea before you even
plan?
started touching the tools,
And it's
right?
like I want to do that, but I want to spend less time doing it.
Yeah. Yep.
uh,
I
no,
get
some
that.
probably the most complicated ones I do are the laminated conch shells that I do.
Oh yeah, those are gorgeous.
Yeah, so they are a full, realistic looking conch shell. And they're generally 25 to 40 bits of wedges all glued together.
Oh
So
wow,
it's
okay.
vertical and it's hollow all the way to the tip on the inside. And then you carve each piece and glue it together. So they take like 40 hours to make. It's so I don't make those for sale because I don't think anybody who's going to pay that much for
Yeah.
a wooden shell.
I was actually gonna ask
Uh,
that. Like, is that something that you actually sell? Because like those are like those labor of loves. You know what I mean?
no, I sold a couple of them in the beginning, but it was there's so much work that it might have paid for my time, but it wasn't. I don't want to make just one thing. In fact, I
Yeah.
rarely make the same thing twice.
Mm-hmm.
So it's each one I try to do something different, try to expand on it.
Yep.
Although a local gallery they did want to commission me to build a conch shell the size of a car
Okay, that's really cool.
um, at my cost.
Oh geez, no.
And they're like, but we'll display it for you. We'll put your name up there, and it'll be
No.
great for you. I'm like, yeah, thank you, but no.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, I mean, it's not crazy. I mean, those kind of things happen all the time. People don't realize how much work and effort it takes to do something, you know?
Yes, that's true. But well, that's why I like doing shows and demos where um, I don't do the chainsaw carving competitions, but while there are carving competitions going on, I'll also be carving.
Hmm.
So it's because if you have a decent chainsaw carver, they can probably do an owl in like 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
So my owls take me like 2 to 3 days because I get quite caught up in all the feathers, and then I want to get the eyes right, and I try
Mm-hmm.
to make the head positions different, and the eyes all unique, and then I hand paint them, and so I can't go to one of those and say, "Here's my owl, and here's this guy's owl." I'm either trying to make him look bad, or they don't see the difference in the work, and then it's doesn't work out. So when I go to do shows, I carve things like this.
Yeah,
Um,
that makes
because
sense.
as far as I know, nobody else does abstracts like this at the moment.
I haven't, yeah, at the moment. It's hey, no, it's true at the moment.
Mm.
But yeah, you have a original look, 100%. It's always got that kind of, I don't want to say it like the infinity sign, but kind of like a twisted infinity sign.
Yeah.
And there's always, like you said, a lot of ways, a lot of movements. So it looks like your piece. You know, there's
What's
some
with
artists
the
that just have that calling card.
yeah with the infinity sign, or it's really a lot of them are a version of a Mobius strip, which a Mobius strip is
So what
everything.
is that?
I'm sure your kids have done it in school, whereas you just take a strip of paper,
Mm-hmm.
like a one strip, you fold it in half, it makes a circle.
Yep.
You twist one half, it's now an infinity strip.
Mm-hmm.
So wherever you start, it's going to twist in among itself and come back to the same point. So it's now a 3D object with one face.
Okay, that makes sense.
But then if you twist it again, now you've got a double or a triple Mobius. But again, it's this very complicated shape with only one face.
Mm-hmm.
So I started doing single-sided ones to doubles to triples to quadruples because I love the complexity of it.
Yeah.
And you start carving one of these things, and your brain just kind of goes, "Stop! I don't know what we're doing." That's all. Because when you're carving one like this, by the time you're carving this face and the other face at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to kind of look at yourself carving to make sure you're not putting the saw wrong.
Right.
Um, and it's every now and then I need to have a moment, go sit down in the corner, maybe cry a little bit, and then look at it again, get up
Yeah.
and go and start carving it again. So
Yeah.
when you see the videos of me carving the some of the infinity ones, it looks very, oh yeah, he knows what he's doing exactly. There's a few edited bits where I'm just like, what the hell do I do now? Where does this go?
Yeah, they don't know about all the stuff we cut out when we make these
No,
videos.
I've got two more pieces I'm about to carve.
Mm-hmm.
And what I generally do is I sit them where I can see them, and I'm just looking at them when I'm outside or I walk the dogs or I'm playing with the kids, and they're just there, and I'm just noticing them and thinking, okay, what do I see there? What's going on? And so generally before I start carving something, I've carved it in my head,
Mm-hmm.
and then it's just waiting for my hands to catch up.
Yeah.
Um, and it doesn't always go to plan, but if I've thought about it enough, I've thought about different ways I can do it, and
Mm-hmm.
so it tends to adapt.
I
Hopefully,
love that. Yeah. No, I always say when I don't start a project, it's just because I'm not ready yet.
yeah.
Like sometimes like you haven't thought about it enough, you know, like the vision's
Mm.
not complete. You just gotta like, no, just let that.
So everything in its place and time, I think.
Yeah. When you force it, it doesn't come out how you wanted. Like if you're not in the right like mind sometimes. I mean, sometimes it could be a surprise, but for me, I don't want to force it. Well,
Mm.
thank you for coming out for an hour and chatting. That went by extremely
Hey,
fast.
well, you are a very easy person to talk to.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I want people to be relaxed on these shows. Like
Mm.
this is not like 30 questions. What kind of fur is your favorite? I mean, granted, they do want me to ask that, but I do have a hard
Yeah.
time just asking it. But what is your favorite bird? Can we ask that before we go?
Wait, honestly, depends what kind of carving I'm doing.
Right?
It,
That's I mean, it's a hard question to ask somebody.
yeah, I love the cup rasps, I think they're called.
Mm-hmm. I know what
Um,
you're talking about.
because I use those on my big sculptures all the time. Uh, uh, the cups, they really help me define, like a lot of these shapes and patterns are defined by what kind of grinding wheel or rasp I can get into it.
Yeah.
And as they're cylindrical, that already gives me that perfect conical shape.
Right.
Because if I can't get a rasp into it or I can't get a grinder bit into it, I'm not going to carve it because it's going to take too much time to sand.
Well, I was gonna say it's gonna be unlevel because if you
Yeah,
constantly are just kind of trying to work it this way and not having the right tool,
yeah,
those I haven't tried one of those ones, like the little rasp that you're talking about, but
yeah.
they look great. I see people using them for carving bowls as well.
Yes, it's I think the only the my comment that I get on my videos a lot is like, because they come on like a mandrel, so you can change the cup itself.
Yep.
And people are like, well, how do you change it once you put it on? It's like, well, you just unscrew it. And it's like, but I can't unscrew it. It's like, well, you get a tool and unscrew it.
Yeah.
It seems obvious, but then it's what might be obvious to me might not be obvious to somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I love the green ones, love the orange ones. I tend to the yellow ones and the white ones don't work for me the way I work because I use a
Yeah.
lot of wood that might be a little bit damp, and so they clog up quite quickly.
Oh, okay, that makes sense because there's not as much room on the actual burr, so they
It
fill.
gives you a better finish, but
Yeah.
I do have to spend a lot of time cleaning. So I tend to primarily go for the green and the orange ones, which are the
Mm-hmm.
more aggressive.
Yep.
And then when I'm doing things like small decorative ones or animals, I'd use the small little 1/8 shank
Mm-hmm.
burrs, like the cone burrs, the flame burrs.
Yep.
They're all fantastic. But then sometimes for this, if I was going to make this more complicated, I would use the die grinder
Yep.
and using the 1/4 inch burrs.
Mm-hmm.
And all because I've got all of them in the 1/8, and I've got them all the sizes up to 1/4
So
inch.
you've got a collection.
Yeah, well, because I go through them quite quickly.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm doing shows. I mean, things get knocked over. I've got quite a few that are I can't use anymore because the shaft is bent.
Mm-hmm.
Usually because I've done something silly.
Oh yeah,
Like
I've dropped an angle grinder. I've got a nice divot in one of mine. Mm-hmm.
know, I'll be like trying to get the point of there, and I'll push the bit past what it's meant for, and it'll wedge,
Gotcha.
and something's got to give, and it's generally going to be the tool's given a couple of times, but a lot of time it's the bit.
Yeah. Yep. No, it makes sense.
But it's all of them. I mean, there's even the one I was donated a bunch of saber burrs probably 3 years ago by our one of our local carving stores. Um, and there was one I don't know what it's called. It's like a flat disc on a 1/4 inch one, and it's a very aggressive
The roto
one.
saw.
What am I going to ever use this for? It looks like it's
Mm-hmm.
for cutting up a pig or something. And but then I found a way to use it, and now I use it. I can do most of this with one of
With
those.
one of those. Yeah.
Yeah, just because it's so aggressive and it is because it's got that thin edge, it doesn't clog up.
Yep.
So before I looked at it and I was just like, I can never use that. Now I'm look at it and it's like, how did I not have this forever?
The roto saw is what I believe what you're describing, and I
I'm not
just
sure.
got one, and I'm
Uh,
so excited to use it. Like so excited.
yeah, no, it's I highly recommend them, and it's using them in bigger tools. I know angle grinders, so I use a lot of big power tools.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but for me, an angle grinder is essential.
I
But
agree.
angle grinder is also the most dangerous tool I use. It's way, way, way more dangerous than a chainsaw because a chainsaw's got 11 safety features. Angle grinder has 0.
Mm. I
Um,
mean, they've got that little thing that everyone takes off, right? You take it off.
no,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was gonna say.
don't even have one of those on at the moment. Um, but it's I find the important thing with the angle grinder is just to get one with a variable speed.
Mm-hmm.
If you can lower that speed down, all you can use any bit on them relatively safely with almost no kickback. As long as you stay away from those ridiculous chainsaw wheels of death. There's
Mm-hmm.
any tool in the world's fine, but please do not ever even contemplate using one of those. They're awful.
I'm glad somebody actually is saying that on the show because I don't think it's talked about enough. But I know I've been in forums and groups that people have talked about them, and like those things are vicious. Like
They are well. It's with the angle grinder. It's when this great tool turns
mm-hmm.
on, it doesn't turn off unless you turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had and all the accidents I've ever had carving have been with this.
Yeah.
And I actually had a one maybe 4 years ago. I was carving a shell, and it was really slow speed. Was fine. I was polishing,
Mm-hmm.
and somehow this I was using it one-handed. I looked away for a second. As I looked away, my hand must have drifted, and it caught the edge of my workbench and bounced and stuck straight into my hand. I had to give myself 8 stitches.
Oh.
So it was and it was literally a second. But if that had been a chainsaw wheel, my hand would be gone.
Yeah.
And every time I carve, at some point in time, the angle grinder will kick back. every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And with the chainsaw wheel, it's not a matter of uh, if it's going to come back, because it will, or if it's going to hurt you, because it will. It's just, will you survive that?
Mm.
And it's just not worth the risk, I think.
No, not at all. Nope.
Use a chainsaw.
Yeah.
It's they're fine. Yes, they like the chainsaws I use carving bars,
Mm-hmm.
which are more of they're triangular shaped. They don't
Yep.
really kick back. So I can use the tops, I can use the tips, I can use them for sanding, I can plane wood with them relatively safely. Yes, they're a little bit noisy, but it's such a great tool.
Yeah. I got my first chainsaw recently just for cutting
Uh,
down stuff in
it-
our yard. And I'm like, I got a little 10-incher, just small thing, but
that's okay.
I already want more. I'm like, I want more
But
chainsaws.
if you can they have some really lovely. If the noise is an issue, they have some fantastic battery powered ones now.
Mm,
And for almost any chainsaw that you get, even the ones you go and get from your local DIY store,
yep.
Home Depot type store, like even electric ones, you can put a carving bar on those.
Okay.
Yeah, you sometimes you have to change the sprocket inside, which is the little grinder that turns the chain.
Yep.
You have to change one of those, but then you can put a carving bar on it, and it's carve away.
Yeah, that's perfect. I definitely wouldn't do gas, but although I hear the electric ones might vibrate more, at least that's what Hallstick's Carvings was saying when he was on.
Um, I think it depends on which particular battery ones you use.
Okay.
Some of the newer versions of them are not only are they're quite lightweight, they're very quiet. Some of them might vibrate a little bit, but the chainsaws have a lot of anti-vibration equipment in the handles.
Right.
So it shouldn't I wouldn't say it's noticeably more so than a petrol chainsaw.
All right.
But the other thing, they can be a little bit pricey because you get the buy the unit for the chainsaw is 100 to 400 pounds slash dollars.
Okay.
But then the battery can be another 100 to 400 pounds slash dollars on top of that. But it's use them at shows. I can use them inside my workshop. I can use them anywhere because they're more the loudness of a drill than a chainsaw.
Yeah. That's
So
awesome.
it's a good toss up.
Believe me, you'll be seeing me chainsaw carve very soon. I know it's
I
gonna
hope
happen. I know it's gonna happen. I'm actually for Saburrtooth, I'm going to New York and I'm gonna be doing carving demos all day for them,
Oh,
like all
sweet.
weekend. Yeah. And there's chainsaw guys that are doing chainsaw carving demos. So
Yeah.
I might have to mingle over to their tent for a
Go
bit.
and give it a try. And when you
Yeah.
watch it, it's some of those guys are really they're fantastic in what the detail that they can do
Mm-hmm.
with a chainsaw. I'm not there. I
Yeah.
still do it all the old-fashioned way. I'll use Dremels and I use chisels. But it's when you see guys carving eyes and all the little feather details with
Oh,
a
yeah.
chainsaw, I'm just like,
So
nice.
impressed. Yeah, it is. It is. All right. Well, I'll let you go enjoy dinner probably. I would assume it's coming up.
6:15. It's
Yeah.
time to go walk the doggies, I think.
There you go. Well, have a great day. Thank you for coming on.
All right, Tiff, thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely.
And I will talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks again for listening. We hope you enjoyed the show. And please do share it out. Let people know about it. We really want to build a community around these shows and around power carving. So we want to help connect people and highlight them and get their stories out there. An event that we want to highlight coming up again is Makers Camp. We are pumped. I just started cutting out a bunch of different templates for spoons. We're going to have some pumpkins that you can carve that Sadie is putting on her laser very soon. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So myself, Tiff from Carver Designs, and Sadie Mae from the Awesome Orange are going to be at the Catskill Maker Camp. That is in New York, and that is October 7th through the 10th. We are going to have power carving demos all set up, quick carves, and some competitions. We're going to also have, as I mentioned, some spoon templates and items like that to get you going. So you can come over, try out power carving, test out the tools on a variety of woods, and we have some awesome sponsors bringing that wood to us. So a shout out to Miller's Rustic Sawmill and Forest to Home Lumber for donating some amazing hardwoods for us to play with and try out. We absolutely cannot wait to have you join us there and just are so excited. So make sure if you're going to be in the area, you stop by, you come say hi to myself and Sadie. We can't wait. Until then, keep on carving.